Hello, people of the internet, the bros and the lady bros of the podcast listening interwebs. I am Andrew, joined as always by
Tyler.
Our dear friends, Tyler. And I said friends in a plural. You're a singular.
I am Legion.
Yeah. This podcast just changed subjects abruptly. So they didn't think we could do it. They didn't think we could do it, but we returned. We're here, episode 2. 1 week later, we're still here.
Somehow, some way.
Somehow, some way, it happened, and probably just because of scheduling. So we're here today to talk about first jobs. Oh, that was a response. Okay, here's the deal. I'm just gonna give you a basic rundown of what my first job was because it's super not interesting, and there was like no stories because no one ever came in. I worked at a tennis center.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I worked at a tennis center that was paid for by the city of Dallas. It was I worked for the city. Yeah, I restrung rackets. I booked tennis courts. I answered phones. I sold Gatorades out of the Gatorade fridge. And
did you play tennis before this?
I still don't.
Did you walk
play.
in and they were like, "Yeah, you're white. You're good."
I walked in and they were like, "Hey, we know your grandmother. Your grandmother comes here to play tennis, and she says you're a nice boy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And then they were like, "All right, here you go. Here's a job for, I'm not kidding, $5.15 an hour, which was the minimum wage." In 2000, I think it was 2000. It was 2000 or 2001. Good. But it's still, I know, it's bonkers to think that anybody made $5.15. I mean, let's get real. The minimum wage should be 15. But again, this is not a political podcast. We've already been political twice on this podcast. But nonetheless, let's pay people what they deserve. So I worked at a tennis center. Nothing happened. The only thing that was super interesting, not super interesting, is I had friends of mine that came by and would just literally hang out while no one else was there. And it was just passing the time and just hanging out with your friends inside of a tennis shop that was next to a bike trail. And so I saw more people coming in from the bike trail to use the bathroom than I did people that were there for the tennis courts. I know, it was really not that exciting, but they also had one of those automatic feeding tennis ball shooting machines. And so, yeah, you bet that there was a day that I was just I wonder if I could. And then, yeah, I took it outside and I loaded it up with tennis balls and I set up targets and I just was and just shot tennis balls at the targets. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this out onto the court and I'm just going to have fun just hitting it myself. Because that was a machine that you could rent by the hour. Mm-hmm. And they told me that if I ever wanted to use it, then I was welcome to. I mean, obviously it was implied not to do that on the clock. But I was just
doing anything
I was
else.
No one's here. And it was also the only job, maybe not the only job, but it was one of the only retail jobs that you could have where if it rained, you were closed.
Oh, that's nice. Especially in Dallas where it kind of rains. There's a rainy season.
Right. But I mean, that works when you're a high school kid that doesn't really need the money. And it's just a job for experience. But at the same time, it's if you needed a paycheck, that's maybe the worst.
Yeah, especially if you're close to one of the lakes, one of the bodies of water where it'll rain randomly, but not anywhere else in Dallas.
Yeah, which this was right off of White Rock Lake Trail.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, or White Rock Creek Trail, one of those.
Correct.
Yeah, good times. But let's hear about your first job. Tell us.
My first job was slinging smoothies, which became a pattern of my first couple of jobs.
Oh, wow.
My first 3 jobs, I was selling smoothies. So I can make a damn fine smoothie.
That's good. Do you have a blender?
I don't.
No? Oh.
I asked for one for Christmas and my family was like, no, yeah. They got me a hand blender.
Dude, the this is great podcast content. It's a $30 blender that you can get at Walmart. It's the Oster brand. It's great. Just get that thing.
Same brand I used to use my barber clips on. Anyways, things that matter.
Barber clips and blenders.
Pen name. So this first job, I got it like right out of high school. And the funny thing was, at the time, me and like 2 other guys that started working there, we all went on a mission trip together right when the store opened. So like they built this, I can almost guarantee that anyone would be able to guess what this smoothie store is. It has juice in the name. Go Wild. But they had built one in this location, and the owner, the guy that bought it, had bought it as a anniversary gift for his wife because she had one smoothie one time when they went on a trip to California, and this guy was wealthy enough to just buy a juice and open up a juice in Midland, Texas.
I was going to say this is Midland.
This is Midland. So not exactly like a health-minded city.
No.
It's actually a pretty poppin' business now.
But they went to the California.
Which
is, for those that don't know, it is on the left. And they went to the California, and they had one of those California smoothies, and it blew their mind. And they're like, you know what? Let's get one of these franchises. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously it was managed incredibly well.
No.
Okay.
I will give like several stories about management.
Please.
But like I wasn't there for like opening week. So I got all my training and stuff like that, learned how to make smoothies, learned how to put things in a cup and put it in a blade and go.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. Yeah. And I learned how to make wheatgrass, which is awful.
You know, wheatgrass tastes like the name implies. It tastes like grass. Like it tastes like...
Maybe my particular location was just like gnarly. But like everywhere that I've ever worked that has wheatgrass, that wheatgrass is almost always like filled with like gnats.
Ew.
So like don't get wheatgrass unless they are like keeping it cold. But if you go to places and they have it on display, that thing has gnats.
Oh, that's no good.
I will put money on it.
That's
it's gross.
Disgusting.
So just, learn something new every day.
Yeah. We're here to protect you. Wheatgrass. God, somebody told me once what it tasted like to them, and I thought it was a really funny description. They said it tastes like a lawnmower threw up in your mouth.
Yeah, it tastes like mowing the lawn.
Yeah, it does. It's weird.
And it takes forever to make.
I have had many wheatgrass shots in my life, and because I like how I feel after I drink it. But like it is not tasty. But yeah, I mean like if you do like wheatgrass like every day, you get like, and this is probably why I don't do it anymore, but you get like this like 5% boost of like energy, in your like just day-to-day life. But again, 5%, is that really, does that like risk benefit analysis? Like you got to run that yourself and then just be like, okay, 5% more energy. I don't want to taste that every day.
Yeah. And this store, we opened at like 5:30 in the morning.
Okay.
For some reason.
Did you see a lot of business at 5:30?
We did.
Oh.
I worked the dreaded clopen shifts. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I would close, but Tuesday and Thursday I would open. So like I was always just already exhausted because we closed at 10, but we left at 11. And then I'd have to be back up there at 4.
Oh.
Which I don't think was legal.
No.
Because you have to have 12 hours between a shift.
It's 10, I think, yeah.
But I was getting 6 either way.
Oof.
But you would show up there, and it's mostly like Midland, Texas. If y'all don't know, it's the armpit of Texas. It's Odessa, Friday Night Lights.
Odessa.
Oh, football.
Yeah.
It is the armpit of Texas. It's mainly oil-filled guys coming in trying to get something that will like keep them full until they can have an actual lunch. Cool. Most of the time, those guys were super cool, super nice.
Sure.
Every now and then, you'd get a weirdo. I worked with mainly girls. There was like 4 guys that were employed, and there was a total of 20 people that were actually like
that worked
workers
at this
there.
location. Okay.
So 4 of them were guys. The rest were girls, and one of those guys was the owner. So, like, cool, whatever. But something you find, especially in retail and food service, is that men are gross.
They can be. I will say this: not all men are pigs. Not all men are gross, but some men can be disgusting pigs. Sometimes.
And I remember this was like 3 weeks after we had opened. Things had been going super good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at this point, I was comfortable in the positions that they would put me in. Awesome. And then we had, I can't say his real name, but his name, well, I'm going to call him, is Chad.
Yeah. I mean, like, I already know who he is. Like, yeah, don't know, but I know.
Chad was in his late 60s.
Oh, Chads are not that old. This Chad was a 60-year-old Chad.
Yeah.
God, just the concept of a 60-year-old Chad.
Way ahead of
the Chad?
Way ahead and way behind all at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, this is quite the picture you're painting.
But he came in one day and we had never seen him before. We were just like, oh, hi, welcome to Juice. It's 5:30 in the morning. We just opened. But sure, come in. And he came in and he sat and stared like, you know, when people come in, they walk right through the door and then just stand there and stare at the menu that way instead of coming up and getting out of the door way. He did that thing. He just stood in the door, stared at the menu, didn't acknowledge us. We were all like, good morning, and not a thing. Cool. Didn't want to talk to you anyway.
Sure.
And he stands there and like it's quiet. We have like a little bit of like atmosphere music going on. But other than that, it's quiet because it's 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, just big gruff voice. What is an acai? Now, this is a common thing that people do, I guess. The acai berry. Spelled ACAI, but the I has one of those little that
sure, yeah.
changes it to acai. Cool.
I believe they call that a umlaut.
Really?
No, they don't. That's only for the U's. But like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, the little I, but it's like angled.
What is an acai? And we're like, oh, it's like a berry. It's kind of similar to a blueberry. Tastes fairly similar. Kind of has that sweet bitter. Not bitter, but sweet tart.
You know,
thing going for it.
It is kind of bitter. Yeah. You got to sweeten it a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh, well, I don't want that. Can I get the cookies and cream smoothie? Cookies and cream protein smoothie.
So,
and
sorry, go ahead.
I want 4 extra scoops of protein. Now, this smoothie already has 2 scoops of protein in it.
Yeah.
With the size that he ordered. He got a large. And like, you can, whenever you add that much protein to a drink, it increases the size of the drink.
It also becomes more gelatinous.
Yes, it also becomes a lot thicker.
Ugh.
And you have to balance that out with liquid, so it can really mess with the taste and the texture.
It can really mess with your kidneys too. Yeah. Anyway,
And
sorry.
we're like, are you sure? You know, here's like the consequences of your actions if you do that. Like, this is what will happen. And he goes, will I still get that extra smoothie? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. We're more than happy to give you that because it's the same ingredients and you paid for it all, but you will get multiple cups and we'll give you a cup holder for it. And he goes, that's fine. Awesome. Rung him up, $10 smoothie. It's a lot of money for a smoothie, man. $10 smoothie that is pretty much nothing but milk, cookies, and protein and ice.
God, which just sounds gross.
Breakfast of champions at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things. Like I'm also like I'm a nerd about nutrition and health and things, which is probably why I still to this day work at a health food store. But like just the concept of like paying $10 for a smoothie that literally is just going to tax your body for the rest of the day because like protein. Generally speaking, we don't need nearly as much as we get. And so to just constantly add more protein, it actually comes from this old diet that is proven to not work. And like the dude that invented the diet actually ended up dying of the diet that he was recommending. And so like when you look at the science of like diet and lifestyle, it's like higher protein consumption is linked with higher all-cause mortality pretty much across the board. So it's like you don't actually need to eat that much protein. And actually when you do consume that much protein, it's actually pretty terrible for you. So it's like, but this dude is ordering this $10 essentially a liquid cookie, or it's gonna be like cookie
cookie.
dough.
Yeah.
At that point, and it's also so much protein, so it's like your body's got to work super hard to break that down.
And it's pretty much just like 2% milk, knockoff brand Oreos.
Oh.
Thrown in, and then like the smoothie man, I still remember this. It's been like 6 or 7 years. The smoothie by itself, the size he got, had 12 grams of protein. That's from 2 scoops. He wanted 4 more, so that adds 24 grams.
So we're looking at 36 grams of protein.
Yes,
Which is like,
A lot.
I mean, just shy of what you need for a day. It's half, just under half, or just over half. Yeah, that's a lot. But you actually touched on one of my favorite things. And I'm really glad that you told this story. Because although I started this episode not really having a story outside of me using the ball machine as a cannon, one of my favorite things in the world is when people mispronounce things. Tyler, you know this about me. We've worked together. And like Akai, okay, totally. Yeah, I see the mistake. It's kind of like when people see quinoa for the first time.
Quinoa.
Let's imagine it's 2008 and quinoa is like still kind of this novel new thing.
New
and
kid
people
on
are
the
like,
block.
exactly, and people are like, quinoa, and it's like there are commercials made with the cheesiness of exactly how hard it is to pronounce quinoa, and it's like totally, but. I have a couple of stories mispronunciations that are my favorites. Oh, okay.
This because
Please.
it only gets worse.
Okay.
So we make the smoothie.
I thought we were at maximum terrible.
No.
Okay.
And like you have to add extra water to the
Sure.
smoothie to get it blend,
Yep.
so it's a smoothie and not a chunky,
Did he just end up getting like a carafe?
more or less.
Oh my god.
Like
okay.
a full, and these are like Vitamix
Right.
brand cups, so they're like the big cups.
Yeah.
So we're making them, and he sees us adding extra water, and he goes, "I don't want it watered down. You need to add more milk instead." We're like, "No, sir, we can't do that. That costs money." But we're more than happy to add the water. It won't change the flavor at all. It just loosens things up, gets it chopped.
Yeah. Just
It gets the
loosens things up.
It gets the smoothie in the mood to be a smoothie.
Oh.
So
God.
he goes, "I guess that's acceptable." And it's like, "Thanks, Chad. I totally needed your permission." Finish the smoothie, and we pour it in, and it fills 3 large cups, which is a lot of smoothie. And then like there's a little bit left over. We put it in like a kid's cup and put it in one of those like cardboard drink carrier things and hand it over to him. And he looks down at it and goes, "What the fuck is this?" We're like, this is your smoothie, man." And he goes, "Why is it in multiple cups?" And it's like, "Chad, we've been through this, buddy."
We had to loosen it up.
The protein expands it. We also had to add extra water and things like that. So, there's just more total matter in there.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, I don't want this much. I wanted one of those." And he points at the smallest cup we have. And we're like, "That's a small, sir. You ordered a large." And he goes, "Yes, but I want it in that. Pour it in that." And I'm like, "So you only want that? What about all this leftover?" And he goes, "Well, I want that. Just put it all in one cup." Sir, I don't know.
We're talking about an impossibility of physics
Yes,
here.
sir. I don't know if you think I'm God. I appreciate you. You're fueling my God complex as an 18-year-old.
Sure.
But I can't possibly do that. And he goes, "You need to figure it out, or I'm going to call the police."
Okay.
I'm going to call the police because you're not putting my smoothie in the cup I
Oh
want.
God, you can't even put those protein scoops in the small cup.
And my manager at the time, his name was Mike. Great guy. Weird punk dude.
Sure.
He
Sounds
comes
like
over and goes, "Sir, you are more than welcome to call the police. But if you call the police, I'm going to throw this smoothie away and I will not give you a refund," which I don't think is something he should have said, but he said it.
Sure.
And he goes, "Oh, is that so?" And he does like the cowboy thing where he moves his coat back and he has a firearm on his
Oh
hip.
my God, really?
This is the first time I've had weapons threatened at me. This is not the last.
No, apparently. God.
And we all kind of freeze and we're like, "Well, sir, I will fit as much into that small cup as you would like. How about you go wait outside and we'll just bring it to you whenever we get it figured out, so you're not standing here waiting around." He goes, "That's better." And he walks out. We lock the door. We lock the door and don't let him back in.
Well, yeah,
And then
I mean,
we call the police and we're
I
like,
was
hey,
gonna
just so
say.
you know, this is happening. And they come and they're like, hey, Chad, you can't come back here. You are no
Yeah.
longer allowed to be at the juice store anymore.
yeah, that's, I mean,
This is all at 5:30 in the morning.
This
so
makes
it
me-
felt like a fever dream.
yeah, I was going to say, it's a cookies and cream protein
It's a
dream.
cookies and cream protein.
Yeah.
There's no need to threaten the 18-year-old kids that are
I'm
probably still a little buzzed from last night.
Yeah, and for those listening that know anything about me, know that like when I'm presented with situations like that, I kind of like either play like super dumb or I like make a joke about something or like, I try to lighten the mood. I think I'd be dead. I think he would shoot me if that was me because he'd be like, I need it all in the small cup. And I'd be like, you got it. And then I'd be like 48 of those coming up. And then I would like pour them into each individual one of those. And then when he gets
big iron
upset,
you.
exactly. Yeah. I'd be dead. I would be super dead. Super dead. Like not just dead, but like turbo dead. So,
Turbo dead.
what is turbo dead? We don't know. Speaking of, we're brought to you by, we're not sponsored. Anyways, so my favorite thing in the world is mispronunciations of things that people buy. And so like acai, quinoa, of course, I understand. Kombucha, sure. Yeah, we're warming up. We're getting there. But there are two stories that are my favorite stories of mispronunciations. And one of them happened at the establishment that we both worked at, which was this old man who's definitely not a Chad. This dude was amazing, and I think he might be my spirit animal. Like, he's like well into his 60s, maybe early 70s, like an older man who's walking around, and he's kind of like looking at stuff, and he's like kind of looking lost, and he's in the supplement section. So, older man walking around the supplement section, but he's very fit. Like, he looks like, like he's doing well for, like, if he's 75, he looks 62, like, but he's definitely in his 70s, that kind of thing. Like, this Paul Bragg is walking around the aisles. No, not really. But, like, he kind of looks like that. Like a thinner, fit, but, like, old dude.
The David Hasselhoff type guy.
Yeah. David Hasselhoff.
Not
I
so
wouldn't put him in.
smoldering?
Yeah, I would. Smoldering. Like, that word makes me feel things for a description of a human being.
So does David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, there he is. Like, I don't know what to, like, thinner.
Okay.
Like he's not a Hasselhoff, he's more like a hassle medium.
Just kind of a hassle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Just a regular size hassle. So, but this man is actually very kind. He was very, like he was looking around and I was like, hey, can I help you find anything? And he was just like, yeah, do you have, and then he started looking around, like kind of like darting his eyes back and forth because he was losing confidence really fast in what he was about to ask for. And so he like kind of darts over, he's looking at the shelves and then he's just like, do you have euthanasia? And I was like, I'd like paused and I took a step back and I was like, okay. And I'm thinking in my head right now, I'm like, okay, that dude just said euthanasia. Like, I'm 100% sure he said euthanasia. And I was like, and that is like,
This is not Sweden.
I was like, yeah, we don't do medically assisted suicide. So I was like, okay, like I gotta figure out what he's looking for. I was just like, okay, I have to. And like, before I was able to even like come up with like the question of clarification of like, is it known by something else or like, like whatever it is that I can do to like kind of figure out what he's looking for. His wife comes around the corner, backhands him, like not in the face, like on the shoulder, like comes around the corner and she just goes, echinacea. And I was like, we've got that. And I was like, oh my God.
Euthanasia.
Do you have euthanasia?
At least he wasn't like super bold. Like, hey
Right.
man, I need a bottle of euthanasia.
Right. Like that also, I would have been like, we don't sell that. But like, I want to talk to you some more because what? So that's the thing. I also have this weird tick. This is kind of where this podcast comes from, that when someone says something ridiculous, like every like brain cell actively engages on this person because I'm like, this is going to turn into a story. And I love telling stories. I love laughing about these types of things. So it's like, I'm just like engaged immediately. So the other one, my second favorite mispronunciation, There's probably two more that I've got for you. We'll stick with this. We'll see where we're at. But like, so the other one is I'm working in Denver. This is Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado, the Sunshine State. It's not the Sunshine State. I think that's Florida. Anyways, so Denver, Colorado. And at the establishment that I worked at, right next door was a dispensary.
Oh, lovely.
Of the marijuana dispensary. And so I was one of the managers there, and I would sit in my car on my lunch breaks and like kind of like listen to, music or whatever, because our break room was small and we had a lot of employees. So if there was a bunch, and I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just sit outside. So I was sitting outside in my car, and I would literally on like my breaks to watch like other employees like walk out, go over to the dispensary, walk into the dispensary, come out looking a little goofy, and then go right back to work. And I'm just like, that's cool.
Looking a little
I was
goofy.
like, it's one of those things. Like, if we are, as your boyfriend stated, if we are on the front lines of the war of customer service, like maybe that helps a little. Yeah. So anyway, so we're in there. I'm working in our vitamins and supplements department again. And this is where a lot of mispronunciations happen. Some of these things are herbs that are Chinese herbs that no one knows how to say. And like, I appreciate the effort of trying. I really appreciate it when someone's super confident and they're dead wrong. But like, this dude walks in, and speaking of Chads, he's like a younger Chad.
Okay.
Yeah.
More
Like
of a Brad.
Chad Brad. I would say Brad's more of like the elder. The elder Chad is a Brad, but the younger Chad is still a Chad. I feel it's like, I don't know if that makes sense. Anywho, so like this young Chad, this young buck comes in, and he's like looking around, and like he's obviously like stoned at least, but like he might be more like on something else. Like, I don't think he's drunk, but like either the weed that he was smoking, or, I mean, it could have been an edible. Those things really mess you up sometimes. So anyways, he is just not in the right mind.
The boy is blitzed.
The boy is blitzed, and his eyes are barely open. Like, it is like stereotypical, like weed and then maybe something else too. And so he's in there, and he's like looking around at stuff, and he just goes, hey. And I stopped, and I looked over, and I was just like, yeah, what's up? And he was like, do you guys have milk Missle? And I stopped, and I just like, you just scrunch up your face because you're like, oh, that's super gross. And then I was like, oh, milk thistle. Yeah. And then he laughs. He like cracks up, and he was like, yeah. And I'm just like, and then I just like looked at him. I was like, fucking gross, dude. Like, yeah, like here, like if you want a milk Missile, I'll show you our dairy department. I don't recommend whatever it is that you're planning. But I was like, yeah, we do have milk thistle. It's right over here. Oh God, it is like my favorite thing when stuff like that happens.
Milk Missile.
Milk Missile. Ugh. Just, yeah. Oh God, we talked about it. Like, I think the beverage that your Brad ordered earlier from the juice establishment was a milk Missile.
Should have been a milk Missile.
It was a milk Missile. I mean, if it needs water to loosen it up, like I think it's by all definitions, that is a milk Missile. Ugh. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This episode's going to be called Milk Missile.
Yeah.
Has to be. Oh, gross. Okay. Thank you so much for listening again. This has been episode 2 of the podcast. If you like what you hear, if you want to join us on a weekly basis as we release these videos, please subscribe to all of the popular podcasting platforms. And if you've got stories yourself that you would like to share, please reach out. I will have some information somewhere for you to reach out to us at some place. I don't have that prepared because I didn't really prepare the statement. Hey, okay, bye.
Bye.